afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fizel, and I'm your host of Afternoon Drive Home on IC Radio, in Christ Radio. We're your source for news and entertainment. You can also find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications, as well as Abundance TV, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it. Afternoon Drive Home, Monday through Friday from 1 to 3 p.m. Central, as we get to ride home with you in the afternoon. I'm at Creekside 2022. We're having a blast here.
We're having a ball, having a good time. We
Absolutely.
Sure are.
How long have you been here?
I've been coming actually to Creekside since the very first Creekside that started. As a matter of fact, when Rob did it the very first time, it was him and Rhonda Fry, myself, my wife Angela, and we had a girl named Holly that sang with us at the time. So us five, we were the crew in that original very first year. So
that's great. Big history there.
Yep, I've been here every year, and I help Rob out in the back, kind of helping to coordinate all the groups getting on and off stage back there. So.
Oh, that's quite a feat there. You must
that's
be a
quite a feat,
coordinator.
yeah, and run a time clock to keep everybody, keep it flowing smoothly.
Well, I need your help here while I'm interviewing folks. Can you help with the flow?
I hear you. Well, we can try.
As it comes to the Griffins.
The Griffins.
Redeemed. So tell me about the Griffins.
Well, the Griffins.
And what's your name?
My name is Tim Griffin, and I've been involved in gospel music for over 50 years. My wife Angela don't like for me to talk about that. She says, "Don't talk about that old stuff. It makes us look old." But I have a pretty far history. It goes back a good ways. I used to play piano for Uncle Alf and the Lefebvres back in the day. And so during some of that period of time, I played for a lot of the big boys that have actually passed on and gone on. But anyway, after being on the road for about 30 years, I decided to come off the road and kind of retire from that road life, and decided to get married. And I thought I was kind of done with gospel music. But my wife Angela, she grew up singing with a family group, and of course she was a what do you call these people that follow groups around all over? Groupie. My wife Angela, and she'll kill me for this, but she was a groupie. I played piano.
Were you the reason she was a groupie?
Yeah, I played piano for a group called the Regals from Spartanburg, South Carolina for about 8 or 9 years, and she was just a little girl at the time, and she would follow the Regals around all over the country, make her mama bring her to see us, and if she'd find out we were going to be somewhere in her area and her mama wouldn't want to bring her, she would lay down on the floor and cry and kick and stomp and say, "Look, you got to take me."
That works sometimes.
So anyway, she was a groupie for a lot of years, and so anyway, we wound up getting married, I guess New Year's this year will be 21 years ago. And since she had grown up in a family group, she just wouldn't have it any other way except for us to put a group together. After I thought I had all that behind me. And so anyway, oh yeah, right? He does. So 10 years ago, she and I, along with another girl, Holly, that I mentioned a little earlier, put together a trio called the Griffins. And so we've been in existence for about 10 years. And a couple of years ago, we had a girl singing with us that came after Holly, and her name was Amber. She's a school teacher. She had a 7-year-old kid, and she came to us 2 years ago, I believe, at the end of the season. We sang at Dollywood. That was one of her last times, and she came to us and she said, "Look, I got a kid at 7 years old. I'd really like to get more involved in my church and spend more time with my family and my husband and not be traveling so much," which we perfectly understood. And she left with our blessing. And we had some dates coming up the first of the year. We had no idea what we were going to do, how we were going to fill them. And so we had asked Melissa Cates. She lives in Von Orr, Tennessee, and she sang many years with a girls trio called Rejoice. They sang for about 20 years, so we'd known Melissa for a long time, and occasionally Melissa would fill in with us. So we had asked her about filling in with us some, and then I had contacted a fella that used to sing with the Kingsmen, Josh Horrell, and I noticed he wasn't singing. And I kind of watched his career through the years. He and I were friends on Facebook, And I noticed he was actually working for AT&T, and he would get transferred around different parts of the country. And I noticed he got transferred to Charlotte, North Carolina, which is about an hour from
I
us.
love Charlotte. Used to live there.
Yeah, is that right? So I reached out to him on Facebook. I said, Josh, I don't know what you're doing. I know you're not singing. If you might be interested in singing, we'd love to get together and just see what we can come up with. So he agreed, and it really didn't work out at first. It just didn't seem to be the right fit. This is the funny thing. So we were kind of back and forth. Well, did we go with Melissa? Did we go with Josh? So what we did, we had a date coming up in first part of the year, and it was with Adam Crabb and the Wilmington Celebration Choir, and it was in Wilmington, North Carolina. And we didn't know what we were going to do. So I said, let's just bring Melissa, let's bring Josh, and whatever we have to do to make it work, we'll make it work. So they came, and my wife, Angela, Josh, and Melissa got together in a little Sunday school room off to the side. Josh didn't get there. He got there 20 minutes before start time. They got in a little Sunday school room, and they just hit a few notes of a few songs. And we were the first group on at 7 o'clock. And when we hit the stage, something miraculous and magical just happened. And it's a God thing. And so what you see right there is what we've had for the last 2 years.
Absolutely.
And it's just really been good. And definitely it was totally a God thing. Absolutely.
When it just all comes together and you really are not putting that much effort into it.
We didn't know what we were doing. It's like a puzzle, you don't really
but
know.
it puts itself together.
You don't know how you're going to put those pieces together, but it just came together. And so it's been really good for the last couple of
How do
years.
you identify the sound?
I really don't know. We consider ourselves somewhat a little bit progressive, but we still try to stick with the Southern gospel roots because we're all raised on Southern gospel and we love Southern gospel. So
it's that harmony.
Yeah, harmony.
You just can't beat it.
You can't beat harmony. That's for sure. So we love it. We're enjoying it, and God's just really been good.
I'm seeing a lot of artists now, and I'm seeing that in you guys as well. There's this kind of different sounds from different songs, and sometimes you just put yourself into it.
Absolutely.
Amazing Grace, that's a common song right
Absolutely.
there. Every group has a different sound, and I have a hard time trying to figure out which one I like the best.
Well, the good thing about that, there's a lot of variety now, so you got a lot to choose from. So it keeps it from being boring. That's the good thing about it.
Are any of you guys songwriters?
You know what? That is one thing, and I firmly believe that you have to be called to be a songwriter. I don't believe for 1 minute you can sit down with a pencil and a piece of paper and just decide to write a song, especially when it comes to gospel music. I believe gospel music and the songs that we hear today are divinely inspired, and but unfortunately none of us are writers, but we're blessed with a lot of good writers that send us songs. And our newest project that we just released back at NQC was produced by Chris Allman of Greater Vision. And I don't know exactly which songs he wrote, but there's several of them that he wrote. Darren Lohr wrote one of the songs, I think, on there. And then we've got a couple of ladies that live out west that wrote several of the songs. So we got good writers sending us good material. So we're thankful for that.
That's a God thing, too, because how does somebody write a song and they figure it should go to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, we have a song on our previous CD, and it was a God thing. A writer out in Texas was looking for a specific group on the internet because she had written a song called Redeeming Blood that we actually wound up somewhere in the mid-50s, I think, on the Singing News charts. She was looking for another group and she wanted to record it. She went on the internet and typed in GRI, and our name popped up, and she thought that was it. And she clicked on it. So our website came up, and she listened to one of our videos, and the Lord just spoke to her and said, "That's the group. It's them." So she sent us that song, and it has just been a great song. And so that's just another one of those God things that you're on the right track.
Yeah, it just feels good. It just flows, and you're not doing it. You're letting God do it for you.
Absolutely.
Oh, boy, I have found so many times when I would just let it go
Just
and
leave it
let
alone.
God handle it. Just
Let go and let God. That's what they say.
and I don't have to be so frustrated.
Absolutely.
I can just be happy and laugh
Absolutely.
a whole lot. You got
It's a
your
lot
songs
easier
are.
that way.
Oh, I like laughing, don't you? It's
Oh,
just
absolutely.
your songs are uplifting. We need that in this day and time.
Absolutely. Encouragement. And that's what Josh is our MC, and he always says that in our programs. He says, we come here to encourage and to uplift. That's one of our main purposes besides sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ and giving folks the opportunity to accept Christ. We say we're here to help encourage you along this journey, this thing we call life.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. There's a lot of discouragement going on right now. That's what the enemy uses.
Absolutely.
Wants to divide us all.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right
that's
now,
how, yeah.
we're going through some trying times. So
Mm-hmm.
anything that we can do to encourage and uplift the body of Christ, that's what we want to do for sure. Absolutely.
When you were growing up, who were your favorite artists?
Well, you know, it's a funny thing. I play piano, like I say, for 50
You play by
years.
ear or by
I do.
note?
I don't know any
I do
music at
too.
all. And my grandmother lived right beside a little Free Baptist church. And I spent a lot of time at my grandmother's. So I would go over. This was back when church doors weren't locked.
Yeah.
So
You young people don't know what we're talking about.
exactly. So I would always go over to the church and just play around on the piano.
Uh-huh.
And then, you know, of course, we attended church there. So a lot of times on Wednesday nights, I'd go in before an hour before church and sit and just kind of play around on the piano. Did that on Sunday morning and Sunday night as well. But my dad, many, many years ago, I mean, we're talking way beyond 50 years ago, he brought home a stack of Blue Ridge Quartet albums. You know, the Blue Ridge Quartet were from Spartanburg, South Carolina. So he brought this big stack of albums home of the Blue Ridge Quartet because we are actually related, sort of distant cousins to Elmo Fagg that started the Blue Ridge Quartet. So one of my dad's cousins brought him this big stack of albums. Of course, he brought them home and gave them to me. And so I started putting those albums on my turntable. And I had a piano, and I just started picking out songs. And so, you know, the Blue Ridge was probably one of my first influences into Southern gospel music. And then
What is your piano style?
you know what? I kind of have more or less like a. I don't want to say, I won't go Kim Collinsworth because that's a little too classical for me. But I'm more of the country, like the Floyd Kramer type thing. And
That's my style
yeah,
too.
that's what I like to play. So,
Last Date, I
yeah,
go all
yeah,
day on that.
absolutely, me too. In fact, I just recorded. I haven't recorded, but I have a track I had done for the old song Chris Christopherson done called "Help Me," and I just love to play that song. It's absolutely
I used to drive my
beautiful.
brother crazy. I would play the song "Lean on Me" just over and over, and he would say, "Make her stop."
Well,
Dun, 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 just over and over again.
you know what? That's pretty much how I learned to play
Yeah,
the
me
piano.
too.
I said, if you can do, I told a young boy this week at a church, I said, if you can do this, if you can do that, you can learn to play piano by
You
ear.
most certainly can.
And he was well on his way.
You know how I learned? Dad just sets me in front of it and says, play. And I'm like, I'm like 9 years old. I don't know what in the world I'm doing. He said, all you got to remember is this goes up and that goes down. So I got to remember.
And I had
That's easy.
I had a younger sister, and I drove her crazy too. So her bedroom was here, mine was here, and I had a piano. Eventually, we moved the piano to my bedroom. And, you know, I'd be laying in the bed at night trying to think about intros in my mind. I'd just get up in the middle of the night.
Wake everybody up.
There you go. Play those little things.
But music makes the world go around, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is everybody. It's a universal thing.
It is. And then the next thing that happened with me was the Lefevres came to a church just right up the street from my house when I was just a teenager. And I immediately fell in love with Janet Paschal when I was like
Oh, yeah.
14, 15 years old. I was so starstruck. I thought she was one of the prettiest girls I'd ever seen. And she just sang so effortlessly. I mean, oh
Doesn't
my
strain
goodness.
at all.
No, not at all. So I kind of fell in love with the Lefevres just as a young kid, and then started buying some of their material and following them around. And shortly after that, that's when they changed to the Rex Nealon Singers, and I used to really, I've got all the Rex Nealon Singers albums, and then Of course, it went to just the Nealons, but they were huge influences in my life. So that's kind of where I got started. And here we are, 50 years later.
That's pretty. What is your most requested song?
You know what? Right now, since we had that Redeeming Blood out there and it did so well on radio and on the charts and stuff, we always get requests for that. And you know, it's one of those songs. I didn't like it when I first heard it. My wife played me the demo of it, and I didn't like it.
There was just something in the demo that didn't.
Well, you know how that is.
Yeah.
But when we went into the studio record, I didn't like it in the studio. But once we got the finished product back, it's one of those songs that you have to hear 3 or 4 times, and the lyrics start to really manifest what the song is really saying. And there were things that I was hearing in the song that I didn't hear in the beginning. And that song really started ministering to me and blessing me. And we were talking about this on the bus just a couple of days ago. We've been doing that song probably close to a year now, maybe, and it still blesses us. And if your own music can bless you, I know it can bless others.
It's got.
You know, and so great song, and people everywhere we go, they're requesting it because they've heard it on the radio in the last year. So we love it.
Let's talk, folks, right now. Are you seeing more and more broken people out there in the audience?
You know, we are. We hear so many stories of people are just going through so much heartache and disappointment. We had a girl recently, I guess maybe 6-8 months ago, that wanted us to come to her church, and she said, "And you know what?" She said, "I'm gonna pay y'all to come. We'll take a love offering. I don't know what it'll be." But she said, "I want y'all to come to our church so bad that I'm gonna commit a certain amount of money so that, you know, y'all can come and be with us." And you know, we went and done that concert for her, and did you know, just a week or so after that, she was going into her work, and she fell, and she had a terrible stroke and fell out in the parking lot. And so we had all of our Facebook family praying for her, and she's on the road to recovery, and she's doing great. But you know, that's just another one of those things. It's like, you know, people have a hard time understanding why God's people suffer. You know, you think this is the sweetest girl ever, and look what she did for us, and then look how the devil come and just attacked her. So we, you know, things like that. And you know, one of the things that I keep hearing a lot of is these kids that are overdosing by accident. And I have a friend that she found her daughter just 2 months ago on the bathroom floor on Sunday morning. She had evidently taken some bad drugs, and it just took her out of here. And so there's a lot of that going on in the world. So like you say, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of heartache. I just think the devil, I can tell you this, as far as us as a group, when we recorded Redeeming Blood, which is a song about the redeeming blood of Jesus Christ, the devil has thrown darts at us from every direction.
That makes you doing something right.
I've been in this 50 years, and the last year has been the toughest year that I've ever experienced. It just seems like...
Was it tougher than COVID?
Oh,
because
Lord,
COVID
yes.
really tried to knock us all down.
Well, it did, and you know, oddly enough, last year here at Creekside, when I left here, I picked up COVID here last year. And believe it or not, I went to NQC this year, and when I left NQC this year, I had COVID again. So, are you trying to tell me something, Lord? You know, do I need to just stay home? But yeah, COVID was tough, but we managed that. And
how did you jump those hurdles? A lot of folks were just losing. You know, I mean, no churches were open; they were having to use their imagination. How did you guys overcome that?
You know, that wasn't all. I think that whole thing was an all-out attack on Christianity.
I do too.
Because
I just believe that.
Even today, the churches still are not back to 100%, because everybody got so complacent sitting at home in the lazy boy watching church.
But I'm not good at that.
I'm not
and
either.
I've told almost everybody who I've interviewed this week, my mind wanders too much.
Well, mine too.
We would be sitting there, and I would just look around the room and get a broom and I'd see a spider web or something. I mean, just, I've got to be with a group of people.
Me too. I'm not a TV person for the most part anyway, so it's always good to have that interaction. And it's getting better, thank the good Lord, because it was tough there for a couple of years, but I hope we're beyond that, and hopefully things will continue to go in the right direction. We'll keep our fingers crossed anyway.
Oh, I hope so. You've mentioned the word redeemed. You've mentioned that several times, and I love that word. I think it's a really good word. So, let's talk to some folks, and I've been there with you. You've done something, and you think, oh, it's just such a horrible thing. I could never be redeemed from it. Maybe your family won't forgive you. A number of things can happen. What does the word redeemed mean to you?
Well, the thing about redeemed, and especially in that song that we did, the song talks about His redeeming blood is still flowing. And the whole thing about the song was that when the soldiers drove the nail, they thought they was shutting down His kingdom.
I thought that was it.
They thought that was it. When His blood dried on the tree, and that's some of the lyrics in the song, they thought it was over. But the encouraging part of the song is that His blood is still flowing. His redeeming blood is flowing today. I mean, the redeeming forgiveness is still here today, and it's as strong and prevalent as it was the day of the crucifixion. And we just need to get a hold of that and know that God will forgive us for sins, I say past, present, and future. And so that's what redeemed means to me, is that when He poured out His blood on Calvary, that we were redeemed of our sins, past, present, and future.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's just such a good word. And I love it because, you should be careful what you do. But, sometimes, you just get out of the Spirit.
Well, I heard a man say one time, you can't be in the Spirit all the time. Mm-hmm. He said if you're somebody that's in the Spirit all the time, 24/7, usually
They've
needs
already
help.
went up to heaven.
They need help. So you're right. You're exactly right.
We just have to be careful what we do. We still got a few minutes, I'm glad. But time is flying, so let's go ahead and make a few points. Okay, now I'm going to talk to you about singers on the secular side. There are some on the secular side I love. I just like the sound, not necessarily what they're singing, but the sound. Who on the secular side do you sound more like?
Well, you know what? I like those old classical country guys. I mean, I'm the George Jones and the Randy Travis and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where my roots are. This new age country stuff.
What's that about?
I'm not a big fan. I like songs and lyrics that have meat to them. Uh-huh. It's more of a story than it is a sound. And I think a lot of the stuff that we hear today is it's a sound. Doesn't have a lot of meat to it. Doesn't really have a lot of get you on your heartstrings. And even in the country genre, there are songs that'll grab your heartstrings, and there's some that'll even minister to you, just depending on the song. But yeah, that's kind of my forte, is that good old country stuff.
We live in Alabama, and so Jessica Muse, was on American Idol, and she's from Alabama, slap out Alabama.
Yeah.
So I've interviewed her several times, and she was telling, it kind of opened my eyes about music, as a whole. She said, the thing I didn't like about American Idol, and I said, what was it? She said, they were trying to put me in some kind of a mold. Mm-hmm. And she said, they were trying to get me to do dance steps. She said, I don't even dance. I don't even like to dance.
Exactly.
She said, I just wanted to sing.
Exactly.
So they were trying to change that. Do you feel like the whole gospel sound is changing at some point?
Well, from what I see, I kind of look back. I look at like NQC this past year, and I'm watching some of the top artists in our industry, and I do see the music changing a little bit. And, for the last 10 years, we keep hearing, you've got to change for the times. and I'm just going to sit back and wait and see if they're right.
Amazing Grace still sounds the way. That's a
absolutely,
classic.
absolutely.
I don't care how you change that. It's still the same
Absolutely.
song.
You know, and it saddens me to go in these churches and see the choir seats are
See, I
gone,
love
and the
choir.
piano's gone, and the organ's gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that really saddens me. And you know what? I don't know, but I just believe there's going to come a day that people are going to want to go back to
We've
that
seen
old
trends
time
through the
way.
years, though, and what it is a trend. There's a difference between a trend and a classic.
Exactly. And you know, they say history repeats itself every so many years. And I'm telling people now, I take the new inspirations as an example. They're doing it like the inspirations did it in the 70s, and guess what? They're blowing it up. And people are loving it. So,
Sometimes people just want to skip a generation.
Yeah,
You know, 'cause I
exactly.
remember I wasn't so much into the 50s stuff because that's what my parents did.
Right.
But I loved what my grandparents had back prior to that.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to love what your grandparents did.
Absolutely.
You know, and some of those old country songs and some of the old artists from way back in the gospel. Like I said, my grandmother used to sing, what did you call that? It's back from the, I almost said it, Sacred Heart. My grandmother sang Sacred Heart. But I remember her talking about, well, when that Southern Gospel came out, we didn't like that, dude.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, see, everything has a trend to it.
Absolutely, it does.
I don't think you can ever get rid of four-part harmony.
No, absolutely.
It's always going to surface.
You know, I've always said that music is the universal language of God,
It is.
and God Himself made the harmony. I mean, there's so many things even in nature that are in harmony. So
Birds are in harmony,
the
for
birds are in
goodness
harmony.
sakes.
You know, so
Bees, we're beekeepers.
Absolutely.
Bees are in harmony, I'm telling you.
absolutely. So hey, got to have that harmony.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Less than 2 minutes left of this segment. What is a message you'd like to give everybody in Reader's Digest form?
Well, I guess the main thing I'd like to let folks know, you can reach out to us if you want to. We have I have to look at it to be sure I get this right. thegriffonsonline.com is our website. You can go there. You can keep up with our schedule there. We've got some videos on there, and you can check out that Redeeming Blood video, which is at the top of one of the pages there. And and we're on all kind of social media, Instagram, YouTube, all those things. I don't get into a lot of that, but I notice on our business card here we got
Yeah, you
Facebook,
got it on there.
Instagram,
Somebody did.
Twitter, and I guess that other one, I don't know what that last one is, but anyway, they're all at
YouTube.
Oh, they're all at Griffin's Gospel.
So all you got to do is click on it. And you
Yeah, absolutely. So, and all that's on our website as well. So, we'd love for you to visit our website.
Absolutely.
And we'd love to come visit you sometime at the church. You know, if you're a music director or whatever, you can reach out to my wife, Angela, and she'll be glad to help you get a date booked.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
We're delighted. And
I'm glad I
thank
grabbed you
for
when
the
you walked by.
opportunity. Yes,
So
absolutely.
glad. Thank you. Thank you for watching Afternoon Drive Home on IC Radio, In Christ Radio, or Ice Cream if you're hungry. You can
There
always
you
remember
go.
it that way
That's
as
a
well.
way to remember.
It also stands for I Can See You on the Radio because we're on television as well. Channel 182 on Charter Communications, as well as Abundance TV found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. I want to do a special shout out to Rob Patz for helping make this whole thing possible.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Rob. And we definitely appreciate you. You take care. Another awesome guest is coming up next.